So obviously offense is pretty easy right now in Madden 21. I'm watching videos and streams, and it seems like people are having success with many different styles on offense, which is, actually kind of cool to see that variety. Personally, like last year, I've been running a lot of RPOs, run pass options, for two reasons. One, I think it's, it combines the really strong interior run game of Madden 21 with, a lot of the quick passing improvements with some of these, slants and bubble screens and smoke screens, being able to take that upfield after you catch that, and it makes it borderline impossible to defend, especially for the vast majority of players online that don't practice defending against them. And two, they're just a lot of fun to run. So if you're interested in winning and having fun while you're doing it, let's get into some of the changes this year and how RPOs are used, and in turn we'll be able to see how we can possibly defend them as well, because it can be really, really tough. Now this might change throughout the year with patches and changing metas and playstyles and stuff like that, but for now let's get started with what you need to watch out for when running bubble screens, and we're going to do that out of the Philadelphia Eagles playbook. And at the end of the video, we'll get into some rare RPOs that are in this playbook that I think are really the move this year, that are, again, going to be borderline unstoppable defense. So we'll go here against 3-4 odd. I think 3-4 odd is, still a relatively popular defense that you see online. It's a good run defense, so you need a way to create room for the run, and the best way to do that is with the RPO, where you're going to constrain guys and make them have to cover the bubble screens, the slants and stuff like that, so you can open up room inside to run against some of these heavy run defenses. So we're starting with bubble RPOs, really some of the most common ones that you see online, and a great easy way to pick up yards. There's certain aspects about it that make it better to run, and certain aspects about it that make it worse to run. So something you got to watch out for when you're picking this up right away, because not necessarily does it work the same as it did last year. So number one of the things that was kind of frustrating last year is against this really popular defense, the cover 4 drop out of the 3-4 odd. It was hard to throw up the bubble against this linebacker, despite him being the C-gap force defender right here. He wasn't really in conflict. Of course, you could just run the ball because that force defender's out. But it was still kind of tough to run against this defense. So you could never really throw the bubble against him because he wouldn't really react. Plus, when you would catch the ball in Madden 20, it took a while to get going. And unless the outside linebacker was a scrub, he could easily turn around and make a tackle for either a loss or a gain of 1 or something like that. But in this case, he actually reacts a little bit, and we could throw that out there, and because we can immediately turn that upfield, we can usually outrun him and get 10-15 easy yards. So right away, that's pretty good. Let's get into cover 3 right here. Cover 3 is even better because you're moving that safety towards the middle of the field. You don't have that extra defender there. So against this, again, we're just going to go ahead and throw that bubble there, and even more room to run right here. Maybe if you can make a guy miss, you could take that to the house. And it's even better against these people that like the baseline. So they're really trying to stack the box here, really trying to get you away from running the ball. But you have all this acres of space right here. You got 2-on-1 on the left side of the field, and you just throw that out there. You do notice one thing, and we'll get into that shortly. So you saw that we had all that space, but there was this kind of wonky blocking right here where the guy immediately kind of disengages. And this happens, from what I'm concerned, is pretty much every single time. Okay, so in this case, it wasn't a big deal because he was backed off. He was 10 yards off the ball and then a few yards in. He was never really going to make a play anyway, so just hindering him by a split second is enough for us to get to the edge and get easy 10-15 yards. But as you'll see shortly, if that guy's pressed up, it really ruins things for us. So where you need to watch out if you're running this stuff is if you're coming up against something like Tampa 2 or any sort of press coverage, really, where that defender is closer to the line of scrimmage, and when he gets that disengage, where they don't really interact, that can become a problem for you. Now, down the road, this could potentially be patched and you don't have to worry about it. But for now, if you see that corner kind of pressed up or just in a cover 2 alignment, I would really kind of shy away from it because so in this case, he disengaged and got re-engaged, but that doesn't happen every single time. So if I go back to cover 2 and run the exact same thing, he'll probably he'll disengage here and then he'll make the tackle. So not something you generally want to play with. On top of that, if it's a cover 2 with a hard flat, then he doesn't get blocked at all, and he can make a play down here, potentially make an interception. So this is important if you are running these bubble RPOs. I would just generally shy away from it if that corner is pressed up. But if you are a defender and you're getting hit with these RPOs, this is definitely something you'll want to come to. This cover 2, or as you'll see here, with just press man coverage is totally fine as well. So cover 2 man, go back to the bubble right here. You'll see that wide receiver, for whatever reason, has a lot of difficulties blocking that guy that he didn't last year. So if we go and shoot that out there, you see he's there to make a play on the ball. So man coverage against the bubble is kind of weird because the guy that's in man, now of course this is an outside linebacker here, or interior linebacker, whatever, he would be too slow anyway. But even if that's a cornerback, a nickel corner, or a safety, he doesn't react like he did last year. Last year, if he was man coverage, he's got the route no matter what. He's not concerned with the run game. He's got the RPO, which is what it should be. But luckily, for the defensive side of things, that guy is able to disengage and make a play in the backfield. So it's kind of two wrongs making a right in this situation. In this look, I would never run that RPO anyway, the bubble RPO. But then when you come across something like a cover 0, where you do have the man defender there and then the other guy is backed off, well, in this case, you might actually want to run this bubble RPO because, again, you have that delayed reaction from that interior safety, and then if you can make a guy miss, you can take that to the house. So, kind of a give and take there and something to consider. So by and large, bubble RPOs can be really good for you if you see this soft coverage, but if it is press coverage, it's definitely something you're going to want to shy away from. But there are other things that you can run. If you're coming up against somebody with heavy press and you don't want to mess around with the bubble, but you still want to have a pass run option game to work off of, which again, I think is really, really strong this year. You still have some of these interior RPO plays like the RPO peak here. And then the one I'll go into after this is even much, much better, but this is a little bit more common in different playbooks. So this is better for a couple of reasons. I think the reactions of the defenders have been tuned a little bit to make the reads a little bit more clear for the offense. So that's number one. Number two, the users are a little bit slower, right? So they can't really play the run and the pass. They can't, take away the slant and then come down quickly and make a play on the ball carrier on the line of scrimmage, or they can't come aggressively downhill and then peel off and undercut the slant anymore. It's difficult for them to read that, and even if they are smart enough to read that, the users just are not fast enough to play that, from my experience at least. And then third, the handoff path is a little bit better here. So if you see it's an outside zone, but it's a little bit easier to turn that up in the middle where you'll see a big hole opening up. So defense has two options here. Usually people don't consider this, but the linebackers are either going to play the run or the pass. So if they are optioning the quarterback, they're going to play the pass, so they're going to sink underneath that slant. Or if they play option running back, they're going to play the run, but the slant's going to be open behind them. So here we got cover 3, 3-4 odd. We are optioning the quarterback, and you'll see just this huge window open up in the middle here that if you don't get a block shed can be easily 10-15 yards. So like I was saying, if you look at these linebackers right here, now of course one of those guys is likely going to be a user defender, so he might not be as ridiculous as this, but you see they just totally split here. So they're going to go in the slant window, so you can't throw that slant, but, and again, assuming you don't get this insta shed over here, if you have a decent guard, you have all this room in the middle here that you can get at the bare minimum 5 yards, and that adds up 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards. They play the run, you hit the slant behind them. Then, like I was saying, if they have option running back, if they don't touch anything, this will just be, random. But you're just reading the guy with the P above him. If he comes down aggressively, you have this huge slant window right here, and you could potentially, make one of those guys miss and get, again, more yards, like I've been saying. And if they're base aligning, the read is a little bit easier because you don't have an overhang defender above him that could be, potentially mixing things up, so it makes it much, much easier. But also you have a window to hit the backside slant over here, a lot of room right here, and again, try to make a guy miss. So a ton of options. You also have the gift route, the little hitch on the outside over here that I would throw anytime there isn't a defender, anytime this guy isn't pressed up and this guy isn't right here. So if I'm cover 4 drop right here where the flat defender is above the tight end, I can just catch that and throw that immediately and get 5 to 10 easy yards, no problem. So you can already see how this is much, much better this year, just a lot clearer for things, and of course once you catch that you can actually turn that upfield. It's also nice against cover 0. So cover 0 right here, obviously your read defender, he's blitzing, he's going to be coming in, but you got the slant right here. And then if you got a little bit of quickness, you can get more. But what I'm actually having most success with is, again, interior RPOs, but to the tight end. So the Eagles playbook, again, that I'm in has a couple of these. This one is really, really nice out of gun doubles Y off. And then you also have one in one of the trip sets that we'll go into after this. And I'm just going to go up against random defenses here and just show you how easy it is to read and run. Usually this route to the tight end is just going to be open. You don't even have to really make too much of a read. He's going to be open right here. You can, forward pass lead that, possession catch that, or rack catch that, depending on how open it is. But sometimes it'll open up really much more nicely right there, and you see that we can, rack catch that, get close to 15, 20 easy yards there. And really, from my experience, the only way that they can possibly defend that is if they, take one of these guys and really commit to that. Even if the user is right here, it's not like previous years where, he can see that late and make like a really quick twitching interception underneath that. Again, because the user's so slow, there's just no way he can ever make a play on that unless he's really committed to defending that. So once he's really committed to defending that, well, then we just go ahead and we hand it off inside, and we have all this acres of space to run with. And even if they're running something like a cover zero blitz right here, where they're really sending the house to potentially defend that inside zone, and they have the man defender on this slant right here, and even if it's a safety, you see he just gets roasted inside even to average tight ends. Shouldn't say average though. I think that's Greg Olsen. He might be pretty good. And then even the backside in is pretty nice. As long as he's not getting really pressed, he has a little bit of space there to get his 5 yards or so. So a lot of really nice options. But again, this is just going to be great. You can just throw this almost all the time unless that user really commits. Plus, it's a really fantastic red zone play because again, your opponent is really going to be thinking potentially a run here. But you can just throw that right here and get your easy touchdown. Now, I won't say always for sure 100% that guy's going to be open without the user defender. Sometimes something weird might happen, so just make sure that if for whatever reason, like this defender sinks underneath him pretty well, like they pass committing or something like that, you always have the option to just hand that off inside. Of course, in that case, I would have just thrown to the tight end route. And then the last one we'll go over here is this really awesome bubble Y pop play. Out of this trips look right here, you have a number of really good options, but really the best and main one is going to be to this tight end right here, right up the seam. Really difficult place to guard, especially for RPO where guys are coming down. And I really even like this with, even if the user defender's right here, I'm going to go ahead and test them all the time because usually they're not quick enough to read and react to that. But if it's a CPU, we're just reading that pitch, in that case, he's going to come down. It was a little bit of traffic there, but we got a decent run out of that. Again, we're just going to read the pitch defender right here. He's coming down. We just throw that above him. We get easy 10 yards. This one ends up getting covered a little bit more than the previous one, but I feel like it's actually a better run when it doesn't. So in this case, we just throw that inside, rack catch that. We see nice 15, 20 yards. Again, I won't show it here, but this is a fantastic red zone play where you can if it's not looking good, you can just hand it off. But if it's looking good at the back of the end zone, you can throw that to the tight end there. Huge space right here. And then right here, you could also run the bubble right here. Again, if it's not press coverage and you got the space out there, you can just throw the bubble out there. Hopefully you don't get that weird disengaged block, but even still, you got a nice chunk of yards. And you also have the gift route over here. If you don't see any overhang defenders right there in the vicinity and the corner's playing off, well, you can just catch that and throw that right here. Get easy 6-7 yards. But by and large, this Y pop to the tight end with the possible handoff underneath is really going to be your bread and butter right here because, again, you just have two really good options that are really just impossible to defend. And one last just fun little addition to this, if you are coming up against cover 2, so Tampa 2 right here, this hitch turns into a fade, and you can just throw that out here outside pass lead, and that's an instant one-play score against cover 2. But unfortunately, and just sorry, I'm in a random play right here, so it's not the same cover 2. But if they're doing something like this where they're putting this guy in a middle third, I did a video on this before where that option is kind of dumb. He thinks it's now cover 3, so in this case he would just run the hitch and you could potentially throw a pick. So if you're really positive that they're not running the middle deep third, that could be a one-play score for you. But really, it's just all about this Y pop right here. Usually he's going to be wide open there. Sometimes either an inside pass lead, sometimes an outside pass lead, and if not, you just hand that off. Okay, that's it for this one, guys. I really hope RPOs take off a little bit more than they did last year. I think they're really still somehow underrated, even though they're scattered across so many different playbooks. The Philadelphia one I'm having a lot of fun with. You should definitely check it out. Really, really difficult to defend this year. Okay, that's it for this one, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.